the DMI Economic Development Committee. Very sorry for the delay. We could hear each other all very well, but we couldn't hear you and you couldn't hear us. I think we're all set. I'm Jason Hilser, President of Downtown Madison, Inc. I am not Ann New Morrison. She is unavailable today, so you get me running the meeting. If things go awry, though, we do have our most recent past board chair, Nathan Wadier, here, just in case.
Alan is also chair.
Alan, we have lots of former DMI board members and current DMI board members here as well. So thank you for joining us. A couple of quick announcements. Got a big event next week. Today, 7:45 a.m. at the Edgewater Hotel or on Zoom at 8 o'clock. We have Joe Lanus, the president and CEO of the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra, to talk about Concerts on the Square, which is back.
Yes.
Yes. You tell my excitement. We're very excited. So please do join us next week, a week from today, the 23rd of June at the Edgewater Hotel or at a live on Zoom as well. So you can join us. We'll also record that presentation. We're excited to hear from Joe. I think that's the only announcements I have. Madeline, am I missing anything else? Seems like we're not. All right, we're going to dive right into it today. We are very lucky to have a couple of aficionados in the Lake Monona Waterfront project, a big project that, well, when did we start talking about this, Tim? In like 1909? Yeah, so we're at the latest iteration, but there is real momentum here with the Lake Monona Waterfront project. This is a public-private partnership between the city of Madison. We're thankful to have Bill Fruling and perhaps other people on the call from the city, and on the private side, the Friends of the Lake Monona Waterfront, which Tim, myself, and Alan are all a part of. We're also very excited to have Alan Arntzen here as well, who is the chair of the city's ad hoc committee, who is wading through how many pages of qualifications? 1,000 pages of qualifications for 14 firms across the country. So we're going to give an update as to where we are and open up for plenty of time questions at the end. So please do think of your questions, and we will get started right now. Call the presentation.
Well, good morning. I'll just sort of talk as Jason pulls up the presentation here. This concerns what the Lake Monona Waterfront project, which we'll just describe in a moment. But it's a big park that the city is looking to plan, really along Lake Monona from about Machinery Row up to Olin Park, between John Olin Drive and the lake. And it's a fascinating location because of all the waterfront right next to downtown. It's a challenging location because you've got both the topography between the it's tough to get to the lake from downtown, and it's very narrow along the way because of the causeway. In a moment, Tim Anderson is going to go through and talk about some of the history of this, but I just want to talk for a minute about the Friends of Nolan Waterfront. What this is it's the private side of the public-private partnership for this project. It's a 501c3 that, so far we've raised around $150,000 for this project for various purposes, and we're here really a pretty impressive public-private partnership with the city. In order to make this a reality. And again, Tim and Jason and I are on the board of that. Pam Christensen, who's on this call, is on the board. There may be others, I just can't tell from looking at the screen. Why don't we go to the next slide? This is just kind of putting it in for location here, where our park is on the isthmus. You look at, Lake Monona there, really running around through from right east of the Capitol around to Olin Park. Another kind of location set. And this, just by the way, is a slideshow that the city put together for the design challenge, which we'll talk about in a minute, to kind of inform consultants from across the country as to this project and to generate interest. And it was really very successful in that regard.
And one thing I would add too, Alan, is this is such an important part of our city, right? We are an isthmus city. It's one of the competitive advantages, actually 2 competitive advantages we have are involved in this project. One is our isthmus. We're one of only 2 major cities in the United States, the other being Seattle, that is on an isthmus. And access to the water is something that is so important to our community, but it's hard for many to get to. Even from downtown, how would I get to the lake purposely here in this office at Reinhardt, right on the Capitol Square? It's not an easy thing to do, but this is a way to open up that access because there's so many people living and working on the isthmus. We have 54,000 employees on the isthmus. You have 33,000 residents on the isthmus, but none with very good access to the lakes. And that's really a key feature amongst all of the lakes. Of the 5 lakes, 49% of the lakeshore is publicly owned. So state, county, city, a university through the state, but yet we don't have good access to it, including right in downtown. So you can see this map really frames it, how important the lake is to both the Capitol and the UW campus. Yeah, absolutely. So as you can see, Lake Monona is one of the key assets to our community. We're able to get out on the lake, we can boat on the lake, we can use it during the winter, but we just don't have access because of John Nolan in particular cutting and bisecting downtown off of the lakeshore itself. We can be able to use it for winter activities. Is that Peter? Is that a picture of you on the bike, Peter Gray? He would winter bike. I would not winter bike across the lake.
Entirely could be. that red jacket, the red and black jacket.
That does look like you, very much like you. I just noticed that in the photo. But we can do so many more activities, but only if we have better access for our entire community onto the Lake Monona waterfront. We have wonderful access to trails. I mean, one of the best trails in Madison is located on the John Nolan Causeway. Myself, David Braun, I've seen him running many times. It is just an unbelievable trail right there. We have the Cat City Trail, the Southwest Trail, all of these Winger Creek Path Trail, all of these trails come together in and around the lake. Plus, there is a fantastic lake loop just over 12 miles around, but much of it's not marked. Could we take about a quarter of that and really build off of something special? So this is what we're hoping to do, is to change that, to create better access for everyone in our community, and it's the Lake Monona waterfront. But this is a long-running project, something that we've talked about for years, and the forefathers of this land, the Ho-Chunk, have been living on this land for 13,000 years. And this has been home because of the isthmus, because of the access to the lakes. We are very proud to partner with our good friends at Ho-Chunk Gaming and the Ho-Chunk Nation on this work, in particular, John Warner, who is on our Friends of Nolan Waterfront Committee. As many of you may know, this is also the home to the largest set of mounds in one space anywhere in the world. And so this is just a place where we need to create better access and better understanding of the lakes for our community. I'm going to send it over to our good friend Tim Anderson, who's been working on this project for several years and wants to talk about sort of the history of the different iterations of what's happened with this project since 1909. Yes. Tim has not been around since 1909. That is not an age joke. So I just want it very clear.
As Jason mentioned, this project actually started in 1909 with John Nolan. John Nolan was invited, he was a premier urban planner, and he was invited to the city of Madison to prepare its model city plan. And the plan is up in the upper left, and as part of that plan, or the centerpiece of that plan, was the great esplanade that you see in the lower right-hand side. This is a big vision for the Lake Monona waterfront that John Nolan created, and that vision included a cascading set of steps down to a 60-acre park that spanned through the causeway as we know it today out to Blair Street. And it was a park that connected the state capitol to the lakefront and to Lake Monona. So this was a major vision, and that vision has guided us as we have developed ideas for what this Lake Monona waterfront could be. I want to give a little background on a group that I think should be recognized for actually creating the initiative for this Lake Monona waterfront plan, and that is the Madison Design Professionals. This is a group of architects, engineers, and planners, landscape architects that got together in 2008. That was the Great Recession, and there were a lot of underemployed design professionals. I was one of those architects, and I was actually on the board for DMI at that time. And DMI thought it would be a good idea if we mobilized their special talents to create ideas for the Madison downtown plan, which was just getting underway at that time. That plan ultimately was approved in 2012. On the right-hand side of the slide, you can see a number of other initiatives that had happened over the years, starting with John Nolan's Great Esplanade down to the present day. I won't go through those, but a lot of exciting ideas that never happened. And I think today we have the opportunity to actually implement John Nolan's vision. The Madison design professionals were a group of 15 people who met regularly to come up with ideas. The first project was to develop visions for the downtown plan. One of those visions was really the lakefronts. How do we take more advantage of the lakefronts? And those ideas were provided to the city, and we're pleased that the #1 priority for the downtown plan was to celebrate the lakes, to transform Law Park into a signature park for the city. Well, that was a stepping off point for many more years to come to bring us up to today. The downtown design professionals, as I said, were populated by architects and planners, but they actually recruited several technical design professionals that included marine engineers, coastal engineers, biologists, scientists, because a key part of this vision was how do you improve the lakes? Not only connect to the lakes, but improving the lakes. So that technical advisory group and the design professionals worked out several different concepts. In 2016, they provided a bold vision for decking over John Nolan Drive that would connect the elevation at the state capitol to the lakefront. This is something that John Nolan accomplished with his cascading stairway down to the Grand Esplanade. But as you all know, access to the lakes has been very difficult. There's a 40-foot drop. How do you overcome that? Well, the design professionals came up with a series of terrace platforms decking over John Nolan Drive that gracefully brought you down to the waterfront. So that was a key vision. The Law Park today, I want to point out, is a beautiful place, but it has its deficiencies. There's a dramatic shortage of open space. There's only about an acre of open space between Blair Street and the Causeway. It has a predominance of impervious surface. There was an article in the paper not too long ago about the parking in Law Park. Why do we need that? Where we could actually create more open space. It has difficult access. There are deteriorating shorelines, and there's untreated stormwater directly discharging into the lake, which affects the water quality of Lake Monona. So those are the issues that we have to overcome as we develop a vision for Law Park. The plan that was developed was the subject of a grant application to the Madison Community Foundation. And the purpose of that grant application was to do a feasibility study. The feasibility study focused on how can we practically build that vision and to provide cost estimates that would show that this is feasible as an engineering project. So that was a very favorable report. The Grafe engineers and Findorf worked together in developing that feasibility study.
Next. Okay.
So you can see the view of John Nolan Drive on the upper right, and those terraces would actually span over the highway, so that you took that impediment out of the picture. So you developed a rooftop terrace instead of acres of asphalt dropping into the law park as we know it today. A key part of that decking was to think about how can we expand Law Park or Monona Terrace. We met with Mayor Soglin, and he presented the idea for how we thought Monona Terrace could be expanded. This is a series of images showing how a few architects on our group solved that problem. In the upper right, you have the existing Monona Terrace, and those blue areas are really the banquet rooms and meeting rooms. What that concept proposed was to expand Monona Terrace to the east with a climatized walkway, and it would double the size of Monona Terrace. We met with the Monona Terrace board, and they were very intrigued, I would have to say, about that concept, and they decided to invest in a study, an expansion study. Hired a Chicago firm to see whether or not this is the way to go. That study came back and they said you need to expand as Madison grows. You need more meeting rooms, more banquet spaces, and so this plan was endorsed by the Monona Terrace Board, and it is a first part of the project to expand Law Park. So the top of that, just below that slide is the rooftop over that expanded piece, and that's a 3-acre rooftop that then becomes part of a larger expansion to Law Park. You can see the cross section of the building in the lower slide spanning over John Nolan Drive.
And so kind of parallel with this, the city budgeted about $500,000 for planning for a project, the Law Park expansion. And then as part of that, after it was initially proposed, the project was expanded south to Olin Park. And part of that is that John Nolan Drive is getting rebuilt in the next couple of years. And the thought was that, okay, if obviously John Nolan Drive has such a massive effect on this park, you want to have the park planning in place as the highway engineers are planning the roads, so that as opposed to having to try to fit in a park after the road's designed. So the benefit of that was it kind of lit a fire under everything, saying, look, we've got to get going with this. Because otherwise they're going to have rebuilt their road and we'll have lost an opportunity to park planning. And so what the city did as part of that, decided to expand the planning area south to Olin Park. And so you can see in the green on the slide there where the planning area we're looking at. And just looking for a moment at the south end of this slide. At Olin Park, the city acquired one more. We have a slideshow frozen. Well, I'll just talk as Jason gets our slideshow back.
I'm seeing the slide perfectly, Alan. I don't know what's going on with the other 40 people in the room.
But there we go. The city acquired that green area on the left slide there. It was actually, I was the alder at the time we acquired it about 4 years ago. in the old State Medical Society building to expand Olin Park and for, you know, and to kind of increase the programming of it. And so that was pulled into this project. And part of, if you go to the next slide, part of it is looking, okay, how do we activate this, this new area of Olin Park, which is a lot of lakefront near downtown. And then there's a facility on there, next slide, the old State Medical Society building, which the Parks Department is going to be redeveloping and using both for public and office purposes there. Next slide. So then what the city did is, next slide, contracted with the Smith Group to do a report to understand kind of community interest and goals for this park. And there was this preliminary report that was put together a couple of years ago, and it was really done in 2 stages. First, for the initial Law Park part of the project, and then expanded out to Olin Park. And then the report was finalized last year, which is good. Kind of analyzing equity issues and okay, go to the next slide. And community use of different, different kind of potential, just sort of doing an analysis of the impact of this park on the community. And so that was finished up last year, and then the city began what's called a design challenge process.
Can I just stop you one second? I want to make sure to acknowledge this was a very, one of the most robust public processes I'd seen for gathering input from the community. Smith Group, Greg is on right now, so thank you to Greg. Smith Group JJR contracted with Equity by Design and Urban Assets to do a whole series of meetings. Just, I've never seen a community rally around the ideas of what could happen in this area and the connections between the east side, downtown, and the south side. It was really, Annette Miller, Melissa Huggins, Greg Covent on the team just did an amazing job of reaching out to a huge part of the community. And so much of that work is now informing this design challenge, which is now where I think Alan will take off from here.
Can I make another point that a critical part of this is also to make a strong connection to the light energy destination district. So we not only have the study area going to Olin Turbo, it goes beyond that. And with the potential to drive this into the benefits of this project into South Madison as part of that revitalization program.
So then what happened is that the city started this design challenge process earlier this year. And what it involved is it's a couple of stages. The first step is the city sent out a communication nationally describing the proposed park and asking park design firms to submit their qualifications to be selected to do a master plan. And what the process is described here. The city appointed a committee made up of 13 people, and that committee, right now, we're in the middle of, I'm chairing the committee. These firms, we have 14 firms that submitted their qualifications, saying, okay, you should pick us to do this plan. And what we're doing right now is a process where we're selecting 3 finalists from those 14 firms. Those 3 firms will each be paid $75,000 to prepare a conceptual master plan for this park. And I want to give credit to the design professional group, Tim and his group, that was really the impetus for this idea of saying, look, if you're interested, we're going to pay you to do the initial proposal for this. And for if you're willing to enter into the competition. And that, so this half of that's being paid for by the city, half of it's being paid for by the Friends of Nolan Waterfront, the nonprofit that's been set up to help with this park. Because much like Monona Terrace, this is viewed as something with a public-private partnership. You can come up with a much better project, ideally, that will, really be a jewel for the city. So this is these are the guiding principles. You can see that this is a screen that Jason, we should probably leave this screen up.
Yeah, this is the best slide we have in the deck.
For sure. But the city did a real impressive job of kind of providing guidance as to what we're looking for this design challenge. And so we've had 14 firms, national park design firms. They've did the High Line firm that did the High Line in New York, Navy Pier in Chicago Riverfront, the St. Petersburg Pier, and all sorts of other ones nationally, just all over East Coast, West Coast, all around the country, with a focus on waterfront, but also firms who, again, we've just been I've been going through these submittals, and it literally is 1,000 pages in total, just saying, why you should pick us. Look at, this is what our experience is. And one thing we're doing, and it's a little unintuitive for me. First of all, this volunteer committee our initial job is to narrow these 14 submittals down to 3 finalists. And this is under a city purchasing criteria, where we've got this scoring sheet. Everybody has, you see up on the screen, the categories, the criteria we're using, and everybody is just it's on an Excel spreadsheet. And right now we've gotten the initial scoring back from this. And what we're doing right now is we're going to interview we haven't decided the exact number, somewhere between 5 and 7 of these firms that have submitted their qualifications. But under the city process, the firms we interview have to be the highest scoring firms. There's no discretion there with it. So the discretion comes in with the scoring, and then you pick your top number. Our only discretion is initial. I think it'd be 5, 6, or 7. So we're going through the scoring process right now on this criteria here. And so why don't you go to the next slide there. This is what our committee is. We were approved by the Common Council a couple months ago. It's got a majority of community representatives, and then representatives of these different bodies that are kind of involved in this process. And we've been meeting, it's been a pretty ambitious timeline. We just got started about 2 weeks ago, and we've got to be done by the end of July in terms of selecting the 3 finalists. So we're working through that process. And why don't you kick through to the next slide. So here's what we're doing. Initially, the design challenge.
It'll stay.
Yeah.
It's a little bit. There we go.
We're selecting three finalists. Actually, why don't you go to the next slide? It's probably easier with this. This will show our schedule. We're by the end of July going to select the 3 finalists. We'll at least get city will enter into contracts with them to prepare a conceptual master plan. They'll have about 3 months to prepare the 3 conceptual master plans, which will come back to our committee. We'll then have a big public input, and that's what's going to happen into November. We'll then have a big public engagement process in terms of evaluating those conceptual master plans, at the end of which will be around the start of February, our committee will recommend one of these teams' plans for the city to enter into a contract to prepare a more detailed master plan for this park. And then right now the budget is for around $200,000 to pay them for that master plan. That'll then be, it'll kind of, the way this is set up, we can kind of tweak then. So we'll pick somebody's plan and say, oh, if we kind of, and have another public engagement process, we'd like we really like your plan, but we like these features of these other plans, and is there a way you could incorporate that? And the city will enter into a contract with that firm to present a master plan. Then again, Madison, there will be a substantial public engagement process, and then we'll get the plan, and let's just kick it over to the next one, and then we'll be looking at implementing it. And again, that is where kind of with the Friends of Nolan Waterfront Group, which I encourage anyone who is interested in working with this project to become involved with. What we're going to be involved with then is kind of working for private partnerships with the city so that this can be, I mean, the goal is to have this really be something spectacular for the city. And how can we do that?
Yeah, I would add on, this to me is one of the most exciting projects in work that I do. This is the number one subject that everyone asks when I'm out and about. How do we create better access to the waterfront? How do we create better access to the east and the south sides of the city? Particularly, as Tim astutely mentioned, when you combine this with what is happening at the Alliant Energy Center and the excellent work of the Destination District team, which Pam Christensen is also a member of the Lake Monona Waterfront, and the visioning that the county has, and what's happening in South Madison, right, with the Black Business Hub, the Center for Black Excellence, Karen's project at Centro, the already completed Madison College. It's just an incredible opportunity to really do something special. And there's been a lot of people working on this for a long time. We've got a long way to go, but we actually have a hurdle in front of us with the Lake Monona Causeway, the John Millen Causeway, that has to be redone in 2025. It gives us the first opportunity to kick this project off in the phasing work. I just want to say a couple of thank yous as well to some folks that have really been very important. Many of them are on this call. First, I do want to thank the mayor. The mayor has had strong vision on this for a long time. She actually was one of the first people to say, let's move beyond just Law Park and into the Nolan Causeway and into Olin Park. There was a great public moment where we were on stage together. She said, I want to go even farther. And I said, is this recorded? Is this what we're doing? So we were very, very thankful for her work. Alder Verveer has been a tremendous. He was able to help with the $500,000 in initial funding, which is still funding the public side, of the design challenge. So we wouldn't be here. Susan Schmitz was on this call as well. Susan has been dogged on this for 25 years. And so we cannot thank Susan enough. There's several people on the call. Bill Fruling with the city, the planning department has been outstanding. John Tucker and Findorf, he's literally looking at the Lake Monona waterfront out his window right now, it looks like. They have been stalwart champions of this. Natalie Erdman, when she was with the city as well. Greg and the team at Smith Group JGR, which did the excellent outreach work. And then Pam Christensen, who's been just fantastic with MG&E. So I just want to make sure that it's not just the three of us. It's Raj Shukla, it's Claire Electric, it's John Warner, it's Brenda Baker, it's Jamie Patrick, it's all of these just great people that are working on this project. This is a really community effort. It's going to take all of us because this isn't going to be cheap, right? And we're going to have to make some tough decisions, but we can really reimagine our city with this project. There's been some great articles by Dean Mosman as well for more sort of background information too. So I want to make sure we're thanking everyone in the room for this work.
Just to jump in with that, city park staff with led by Eric Neff and then Mike Sturm, who's been the principal park staff working on this committee, have just done a spectacular job.
And Mike created this slideshow, so all citation goes to him.
Yeah.
My law school days are coming back to me. I'm going to get plagiarized here or something.
It's been really great just working with the city support on this.
So I think we'll take any questions. If you have questions, we're running the Zoom meeting as well. So if you have questions, just send them in either through the chat or you can raise your hand because we can hear you. We've got 20 or so minutes for questions. Alex.
So on the cost front, is it at a point yet where there's estimates for what it could cost, or is there a number that we're going to have to back into, or is it still too?
It's too early. There's no number we have to back into, and part of that is because of the public-private nature of this. And also, we're looking at, quite frankly, one of the other reasons of getting out ahead of the John Nolan Drive reconstruction is, okay, if we've got some of this, when you got the bike path connections, you've got, the walking there, we got a chance of using some transportation dollars to support the park and support the park improvements. So the hope is that there are a number of funding sources. One thing, just as an example, on the east end of this by Machinery Row, Frank Lloyd Wright designed a boathouse in 1895. It was one of the first projects he designed after he left Lewis Sullivan to work privately. And that's there as a vision. It couldn't be built as designed right now, building, well, that kind of thing. But there are just kind of different aspects of this that might really lend themselves to a big community signature space where you could ideally get some substantial private support for this. But talking with the Parks Department, I mean, they are looking big at this. They're saying that this is just really an enormous opportunity for the city. And it's one that, it's got the upside, but we don't want to blow it. You've got 1.5 miles of lakefront right next to downtown. And you really get it. One thing that's been fun looking through these consultant reports is looking for people who have designed just spectacular public spaces in areas that were even more challenging in this, even, narrower threads of land, different topography differences between what you're trying to connect, trying to deal with big transportation impediments like, highways and things like that. It's really impressive how these planners have come up with solutions in really challenging situations. Looking at artificial islands, habitat out in lake for water quality, and lakefront critters, and so
Is that a technical term? Lakefront critters?
It is. And so it's just inspiring to look at this. People have come up with really neat solutions to the kinds of problems that we have. And again, to credit the Parks Department, they're looking big on this, and appropriately so.
I also want to credit one more group too. Bill Fruling is on, but the planning division has done amazing work, particularly on Wilson Street. Wilson Street is just having a huge development day right now. On our tracker, we have 1,500 units that are going in on that street alone. Rich and Helen have already completed 160 of them. And Lance Rash project that was just completed. A part of the project that McGrath put together on the 200, might be the 200 block East Wilson is an easement, about a 15-foot across easement that will allow it. Right now, it just looks like it's going to nowhere, but that was planned for this project and to create access points. You see the same thing in the great project that First Barton and Quad Capital Partners are doing on the SWIB site. Right now, they have a knock through towards that sort of waterfront, and you're seeing that. So there'll be different access points, and they're building that now. The work at Crowley Station, which is just a kind of a precursor of the lakefront porch that they want to build there. So there's a ton of pre-planning happening on the planning side as well, including 2 TIDs. We talked about this last month. A new TID hopefully will be created on East Wilson, and then the TID 45, which basically goes around the Anchor Bank, the old Anchor Bank, now Old National site. They're amending that boundary and adding in and grabbing the increment that will be created with the projects on West Wilson Street.
Where does the rapid bus transit come in, and is that?
It's not really.
Yeah, it would only be would touch here. The closest station would be here on the Capitol Square.
Yeah, okay.
The John Nolan Causeway reconstruction, what do we know about that? Is that just a resurfacing, or are they completely rebuilding it? And what about the pedestrian walkway there? What are they doing?
They are rebuilding the bridges there. I mean, if you see, city engineering has made some proposals. I mean, there's been a lot of settlement. This is, I mean, anybody who's familiar with it, it's not great dirt underneath there, and the bridge has moved, and so they've got to
actually sets of 6 bridges total because it's 3 couplets.
And they're all, yeah, and they're just completely rebuilding it. But then as part of that, and again, how it relates to this is, you've got the bike path there, which is a really important, heavily used connector. It's not a great experience on this fairly narrow path where you've got a lot of competing uses right next to the highway. So
there's actually only a guardrail on 1/3 of it. I didn't even realize that as a runner, but you and I are out there all the time. I didn't realize it until I went to a Rotary meeting from downtown to Line Energy Center, and then semi-truck had actually run into the guardrail. Just by chance, it hit the guardrail next to the bridges. They have guardrails. The main area does not, and it's not a good thing. I'm not a traffic engineer, but to have 40, 45, sometimes 50-mile-an-hour cars within feet of pedestrians without any. So there's amenities. You could also put piers. There isn't a big appetite for lake fill on this project, but you could do some piers. You could do some amazing spots. You could just check out that view. I mean, we all know it. When we drive people into the city for the first time, what do? You go out of the way to go down John Nolan because it's a spectacular entry into the city. But when you're on that bike path, there really is no place to stop. And so you could do a lot more. There's federal funding available. The city's building the stack now, and it's 2025. It could be 2026 is when that happens. Peter.
Yeah.
Sorry, Peter.
This is really exciting, and I've seen prior iterations of this for some time. In past visions of this, I've seen the vision of John Nolan Drive actually being covered over to have a sloping park so that people could actually could walk from the Capitol to Lake Monona. Is that on the table, or is that is that too?
It's on the table, but I'll hand it over.
The actual architect.
Yeah. You know, that was one of the first visions we came up with as part of the design professionals.
Yeah, I remember.
And, you know, it was a great vision because it did just what you described. It eliminated the highway as an impediment and made that whole expanse of pavement into a park. The cost of that was tremendous, of course, and also the logistics of getting all the permits to do that, and the water table issues and pumps that you would need, it just made that pretty infeasible. So what we came up with, of course, is the idea that we could take the air rights over John Nolan Drive and develop a park over the top of that, where you wouldn't see the highway, you wouldn't come in contact with the highway, but you would actually develop a park as you would if you lower John Nolan Drive in that whole expanse of pavement. So I'm not sure if that's going to be part of the solutions that the design.
So does that mean, I'm sorry, does that mean like covering John Nolan with a park deck,
Yes.
but not having it like be a hill down to Lake Monona?
Well, it could be
Water slide.
It
We
could
come
be.
in. Water slide.
I mean, you have issues of clearances and so on, but the great feasibility study all of that, and the cost that they projected with Findorf made this thing very reasonable in terms of a project that we think can happen. So anyway.
Lori and the David.
I have a question about accessibility and universal design. So when I think of the Monona Terrace and I go to the rooftop events, the ability for people of all mobility levels, whether it's a wheelchair, a stroller, a walker, to really make it part of the mainstream part of getting into the park. And I'm wondering if that's a consideration versus just like an elevator on the side type situation.
It is, and and in terms of the submittals from the different firms we're looking at, these places are really good at that sort of thing.
Okay.
So that's right front and center. As part of the idea is, have this be a park that works for everybody in Madison.
Okay.
Yeah, and as a organization, we were Beyond Compliance Task Force. We were heavily involved. We helped author the report on making downtown more accessible. Work with our friends at Access to Independence and many other different parties. Right now, it's honestly terrific to get to the lake waterfront. And so any improvements, we have to make sure to focus those improvements to have that. People don't realize the grade that the Capitol is on it. And if you drill down MLK, it goes down significant. What is the total amount? 40 feet. Yeah, you don't really realize that when you're downtown. It's a 40-foot cliff down. And so figuring that out and decking over is a really good solution to make,
Well,
wandering
just
past.
one step is a game changer.
Yeah.
So we
Changes
design
everything.
all of our buildings,
Yeah.
universal, you roll
That's
it.
awesome, Lori.
There's no barriers to it.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Yes, and do join us on July 26th for an accessibility design conference. We'll be announcing that soon. Here's my plug. David.
My question was around the scoring system, so I was a bit surprised to see the local involvement being on the bottom with only 5 points for local vendor and 5 points for local knowledge of the municipal codes, et cetera. Maybe just educate the group. Is it just the complexity of the project? I think the city, and as a resident of the city, there might be some heartburn over the Judge Joe Square fiasco lingering over us. So
The scoring criteria was given to the committee. The committee did not come up with the scoring criteria. So this came out of city staff and, and the city process. But I think what it reflects is the view that this is not a local park. This is, if we do it right, this is our version of Millennium Park. This is a signature park to the city. So I know that with, you look under the scoring criteria, the first one, 40 points, almost half the points are the firm's ability. What can you show us that you've done with a signature park? This is the stuff where people say, oh, we did the High Line in New York. We did the Navy Pier expansion. We did the pier in St. Petersburg. And say, look at, these are parks that are kind of on the national map. And so that was explicitly a consideration by the city that there is, obviously there are the categories which are smaller, but still there. And by the way, the one thing you notice when you're scoring these very qualified firms, 5 points out of 100 makes a difference. And so they'll say if you're a local design and you get a bonus there for 5 points, that can kind of move you up in the rankings quite a bit.
You should note that many of the larger national firms also have local teams with them.
Yeah.
Right. So I think almost all of them do.
Yep, right. And
I was
so,
impressed with the proposals because some of them had multiple local professionals working with them. I think these firms recognize the importance of having people on the ground and people as part of the community on their team to help them create this vision.
So it's a lot of joint venture proposals.
or teams, it's just teams with the
Working together.
subcontractors. And also, I mean, I don't know, but every once in a while, the Madison development process can be a little challenging. So having people who are.
Well, that was my point.
Yeah.
Nathan, can you expand on that?
I'm not familiar with what he.
By the way, Natalie Erdman's on our committee, and she's been a great
Your
resource.
nose just got like this one bigger.
Any more, I don't see, do we have questions from them? I want to give a chance for anyone on Zoom. Sorry, one second, Jason. If you do have a question, just raise your hand with the raise hand function on the reactions. I don't know why I'm telling you all this. We've all been on Zoom for 2 years, so you probably know where that button is by now. But if you do have one, let me know. Jason.
What, the public review process was up there to begin in November. What does that look like at that stage of the
What
process?
that looks like, I mean, we'll see. One of the things with the pace of this is, again, we had a committee that was put into place in the middle of May. So we're kind of doing everything at once. And so we're going to be putting that in play. But right now we're looking to, pick our 3 semifinalists. But my thought as the chair of the committee, just one input into this is that's where we'd have a really, public outreach, a robust public input process there, where we're both going out into the community as well as having a number of public meetings, encouraging input. But it'll be once we've got 3. What we'll have then is 3 proposed conceptual plans for this. We'll really get stuff for people to look at and say, this is what I like about this. This is really important.
The Friends Group have 2 committees. One is fundraising, and this is going to take a lot of financial support, not just to support the master plan, but also what comes after the master plan. The other one is the Public Outreach and Education Committee. That's a very important committee that's going to be helping to get the word out, not after the concept plans are developed, but starting almost now, because as we prepare our way for the design challenge, we want to help people know that this is coming, and we'll have a whole series of options in terms of how we inform the public. So there's a number of people on that committee working to help promote this project in collaboration with the city, of course.
And please do go to lakemononawaterfront.org. We're so thankful to the city for working with them. We're actually the ones, building that website, so we can do a little bit more. But the city is supporting that site as well. So LakeMononaWaterfront.org is by far the best place to get action. Any final questions here? We've only got a couple more minutes. Nathan.
How much state buy-in is required?
We'll see. I mean, obviously, along the way, you know, Madison's got a charter ordinance. We got to get a referendum to fill into the lake. And certainly as we're doing things within the body of water, you need DNR approval, and even perhaps Corps of Engineers. And, you know, transportation money, you're looking for state money in terms of John Nolan Drive, which
Is it the state highway?
So as much as we can get. Sometimes that's a challenge.
And Department of Tourism, I mean, this is a tourism destination. If we build the boathouse, that will be the only place, this project, the only place where you have two Frank Lloyd Wright buildings in the same waterfront, only 1,000 feet apart. The first one that he designed when he came into private practice was the boathouse. The last one that he designed before he died in 1959. So this is an incredible opportunity to create this destination for Madison and the downtown.
And we promise it'll take less than 40 years. What it took to Monona Terrace to plan. I think I'll still be around. I hope. All right, any last questions here? If not, I want to thank everyone on Zoom. It was great. I think we had 35 people on Zoom, so thank you all for being there. John Tucker wins the award for having the Lake Monona waterfront background in his office. So that was well done. Well done, John. We appreciate that. Again, our next event is a week from today, 7:45 a.m. at beautiful Edgewater Hotel. We've got Joe Maness from the Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra. To entice you to come even more, I will not be emceeing. I'll be on vacation. So that'll be a good thing. So Megan Dravic will be handling that. So yes, please do go. We'll see you then. We've got tons of other information. Please do continue to check out our development tracker. Thank you to our friends at Reinhardt. Everyone have a wonderful day. We'll see you downtown sometime soon. Bye, everybody.
All right, thank you.